Hello, romance book lovers. Welcome to Tales from the Heart. I'm Jenna Harte, and each week I post new episodes from my stories of crime and passion. Right now, we're listening to Till Death Do Us Part, book 4 of the Valentine Mysteries. This week is episode 5, chapter 5. Now, if you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get Till Death Do Us Part from your favorite ebook retailer, or you can save by buying the book direct from me. Till Death Do Us Part is the 4th book in the Valentine Mystery series. If you missed book 1, Deadly Valentine, you can listen by checking earlier episode postings, or if you'd like to read it, you can get Deadly Valentine for free at my website at jennaharte.com. Books 2 and 3, Old Flames Never Die, and With This Ring I Thee Kill are available in earlier episode postings as well, or available to read at your favorite ebook retailer, or again, you can pick them up less through my shop. Tales from the Heart is posted to YouTube each week. These episodes are edited to censor out intimate content, but if you'd like to have a version that includes the spicier bits, plus get early access, behind the scenes information about the stories, bonus content, and more, please consider joining my free exclusive Sweetheart group at jennaharte.com. Never miss the mystery or romance by hitting the subscribe button, and remember that all the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Now snuggle up, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Chapter 5. Jack knocked on the door of Ava's hotel room and took a deep breath to help him prepare for what he might encounter. He still couldn't wrap his brain around Ava killing anyone, including Amya. It had to be an accident, he convinced himself. Even so, Ava was in serious trouble. Tess would have told him to call a lawyer, and then Daniel. She hadn't, though, because he hadn't told Tess what Ava had said on the phone. He knew it was his first big mistake as a married man, but he didn't want to say anything to anyone until he'd gotten the details from Ava. So he'd kissed Tess goodbye and now waited on Ava's doorstep.
"Jack, you're here,"
she said, desperation in her voice.
"I came as fast as I could. What's going on?"
He stepped into her room and closed the door. He scanned the room for signs of a struggle but found none. When his eyes met Ava's, she looked worried and unsure. She stood, gnawing on her thumb, a habit he thought she'd given up long ago.
"I can't believe she's really dead."
Ava let out a nervous laugh.
"I dreamt it, but God, I never thought—"
"What happened?"
She started to pace, shaking her head as she did.
"I keep going over and over it."
"Why don't you start at the beginning?"
He noticed the room service cart with an untouched hot water pot and packets of tea.
"How about some tea and then you can tell me what happened?"
She nodded but kept pacing. Jack headed to the cart to prepare the tea.
"I was getting ready for bed when I heard a big commotion up the hall. I looked out my door and Reese and Amya were going at it. I'd never seen him so mad. She had convinced the staff here to let her into his room."
Ava said with a can-you-believe-it tone.
"I just don't get why she thinks that kind of stunt will work. Does she think he forgot that he doesn't love her?"
Jack dipped a tea bag into the hot water.
"I don't know."
Anyway, I closed my door, deciding I'd keep out of it.
"Good idea,"
Jack said under his breath.
Finally, things quieted down. I learned later that instead of kicking her out, Reese left and got another room. I guess he did that because of how it would look if he kicked her out, but she gets away with way too much.
Jack handed her the tea. She took a sip, but it did little to calm her nerves.
The more I thought about her breaking into his room and getting dressed in some skimpy lingerie to seduce him, the madder I got. There was something seriously wrong with her.
"Did you confront her?"
Jack asked. Ava gave him a guilty look.
"Yes. You know full well that I held my tongue long enough, so I went to Reese's room to let her have it.
She winced at her choice of words.
Not to kill her, or even hurt her. I just had a few things to say."
Jack nodded.
"Did she let you say them?"
I said them, but I don't know what the hell is wrong with her. She seemed more amused than mad, like she knew something I didn't, you know?
"Did she know something?"
I don't know, but that's when it really sunk in that as long as she was fixated on Reese, he'd never be free from her. She lived in some sort of delusional world. In fact, when I heard there had been a murder, I thought she'd killed him. That's how sick I think she was.
Tess had echoed the same sentiment earlier to Daniel.
"Did you fight, I mean physically?"
Jack asked, wanting to get to the part where Ava killed Amya,
Number I nearly threw the wine glass she gave me at her, but I didn't.
Prince.
Jack muttered to himself.
What?
Nothing. Then what happened?
Then I left. Just as I got back here, Josh showed up with a new script.
It was late to be working, wasn't it?
Jack asked. Ava shrugged.
Mel wanted Reese and me to meet with him tomorrow, and we needed the script changes. Anyway, Josh was here, so I was able to vent to him instead of, well, you know.
That explained why her room wasn't trashed, but not why Ava thought she killed Amya.
I don't understand why you think you killed Amya.
Not long after that, Reese called Josh and asked if he'd go to his room to get his script changes, because he didn't want to deal with Amya.
Why did he call Josh? Doesn't he have his own assistant?
Yes, but Karen was already in bed, and Josh used to work for Reese until Amya fired him. Reese was so mad and tried to hire him back, but by then he was working for me and, well, I might get angry sometimes, but I'm not batshit crazy.
Not usually, Jack thought. Ava, who had steadied some, now paced again, agitation showing on her face. Then she stopped abruptly.
I'd wanted her gone, not dead, but you know.
He nodded and hoped she didn't share those feelings with the police.
I told Josh that I thought she would ruin Reese and this movie, that she would continue to ruin Reese's life as long as she lived.
She let that hang. Jack's eyes narrowed as he tried to decipher what Ava was saying.
You think Josh killed Amya?
Because of me.
The words deflated her as she sank onto the couch.
Oh, God.
What does he say?
He says she was alive when he picked up the script.
But you don't believe him.
He was the last one to have seen her alive.
Unless it wasn't him.
Still, Jack was relieved it wasn't her.
But even if he did kill her, that's not your fault.
I'm the one saying we'd never be free as long as she lived.
As your assistant, he's supposed to organize your schedule, not kill for you. If he killed her, it's on him, not you.
I know that on an intellectual level, but still.
It worried Jack some, too. What if Josh did do it and said Ava put him up to it? That could still be a problem for her. Jack sat next to Ava on the couch.
Did you tell the police this?
I didn't tell them the part about thinking Josh might have killed her.
But you told them about Josh getting the call from Reese and going to get the script.
She nodded. He felt some relief. At least he didn't have to worry she lied to protect him. Still.
I think you should call a lawyer.
Her head spun to look at him.
What? Why?
My experience tells me it can't hurt to have one in cases like this.
I didn't kill her.
But you think your assistant did, and...
I'm guilty by association?
I just think having a lawyer on your side would help.
Did Tess say that?
He hesitated.
You didn't tell Tess you were coming here?
No, I told her. I just didn't mention the part where you thought you killed Amya.
I didn't really. Not directly.
She would recommend a lawyer if she knew, and when I leave here, I'll stop by her shop and let her know what's going on. If you want a referral, she can give you one.
I can ask her later. I meant it when I said I wanted a girls' night out with her.
Jack was afraid of that, but now he wasn't concerned about the stories Ava might tell. Now he was worried about a murderer.
Why don't you do it at my house instead of here?
Why?
When this gets out, there will be paparazzi everywhere. At my place, you can have privacy and get away from the drama here.
She nodded.
That sounds perfect.
Tess dropped the pot into the coffee maker and pushed the brew button. The coffee was the icing on the cake for a productive morning in the shop. She had a couple of browsers who she felt sure would be back. A woman who bought an $800 La Perla set to spice up her love life with her husband, and a middle-aged man who bought a teddy for his wife. At least that's what he said. He looked like the type to have a mistress. Tess inhaled the chocolatey coffee fragrance of the mocha and readied to take the first delicious sip when the bell over the front door chimed, letting her know someone was in the shop. Bringing the coffee with her, she walked through the doorway separating the back room from the main store. She smiled as her heart did a little leap.
I thought you'd be on your way to Washington.
Jack smiled back, and it struck Tess that his expression mimicked her own. It was odd, yet satisfying to know she could make his heart skip too.
I was, but I wanted to stop by before I left.
He leaned over the counter and gave her a kiss. Then he noticed her coffee.
On a break?
Celebrating. I had a profitable morning.
Congratulations.
How about you? How are things with Ava?
She didn't kill Amya.
I didn't realize that was a serious concern.
When she called, she told me she thought she killed Amya.
Tess frowned.
How do you not know if you killed someone?
Turns out she thought she might have set the murder in motion, by accident.
Reese?
Jack shook his head.
Josh.
An assistant that is willing to kill. That's some assistant.
I'd kill for you.
Regina's voice came from behind Tess.
You know, if someone was threatening you...
That's good to know.
Tess said, turning to see Regina standing in the doorway to the back room.
Hey, Valentine.
Regina, I hear you're making my wife's business an internet success.
It's not that hard. I mean, who doesn't like sexy underwear?
Who doesn't indeed?
Speaking of which, I'll go in the office and check the online sales.
Regina disappeared, leaving Jack and Tess alone.
Have you told her about giving her a bigger piece of the lingerie pie?
Jack asked.
Not yet. I want to get the details outlined first.
You're so meticulous.
It didn't sound very much like a compliment.
When it comes to legal stuff, yeah. Do you know how many businesses I've seen go south because something wasn't outlined well enough in the contract?
Are you protecting you or Regina?
Tess knew he was teasing her, but that was okay. If you couldn't joke about lawyers, what would there be to joke about?
Both, but I won't bore you with the details. Tell me about Ava.
She's hanging in there. She's upset and yet feels guilty because if thoughts could be made real, Amya would have been dead long ago.
I'm sure Ava isn't the only one who had fantasized about Amya's demise.
No.
What does Josh say?
He told Ava he didn't do it.
But she doesn't believe him.
I don't think she knows what to think.
If he did do it based on something she said or did, that could come back on her?
Tess said. The look in Jack's eyes told her he'd already considered that.
I suggested she call a lawyer. In fact, I said you could give her a referral when you have your girls' night.
She still wants to do that?
She could use the time away. I also said to have it at our place. I don't like that there is a murderer running around that hotel.
Yeah, because our house is impenetrable.
Tess said, remembering how two men conned their way into their home to steal her engagement ring.
The security is improved, and I know that you won't open the door to a stranger.
I'll scare them off with a frying pan. It worked before.
She said when Jack rolled his eyes.
There's one more thing about this slumber party.
Worried what Ava might say about your formative years?
Tess leaned her elbows on the counter, mimicking Jack's stance and putting her nearly nose to nose with him. He gave her an innocent expression.
No, there's nothing to tell and I have no secrets from you. But there is one thing I haven't told Ava.
Tess knew Jack took marriage and his relationship with her seriously, so she wasn't surprised that she was the only one who knew all his secrets. Still, it made her feel good to hear him say it.
What's that?
She doesn't know about my relationship with the senator.
It had been over 6 months since Jack had learned he'd been adopted and that Senator Worthington was his birth father, but he still wasn't ready to have that become common knowledge. Interestingly, the senator did. He wanted to officially welcome Jack into the family, despite what it could do to his political career.
Okay, I wouldn't talk about it anyway unless she brought it up.
I know. I just thought I'd let you know.
Do you think you'll ever feel comfortable sharing that bit of news?
He stiffened slightly, then sighed.
I don't know. Information like that has a way of getting out, so I guess I don't have much choice.
If you do it, then you can control it better than if it's discovered by someone who cares more about the story than the people involved.
Tess thought of her friend, Kate Wells, who worked for the local news station. Kate cared about the people she knew, but Tess didn't want to test that theory if Kate stumbled on the truth about Jack being the illegitimate son of the senator. If Jack and the senator brought her in, she might be able to present it less as a scandal and more as a father and son reunion. Jack nodded, but she could see in his eyes he wasn't ready. Jack's phone chirped, letting him know he had a text.
Brad.
He's probably wondering where you are.
He's probably wondering how my friendship with Ava and Ava's possible involvement in murder is going to affect the company.
Tess laughed. He was probably right.
You should get going.
Trying to get rid of me?
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
It only makes me nuts. But before I go, I need to apologize for not telling you what Ava said about Amya's murder.
Tess frowned.
But you did.
I didn't this morning when she called, and I should have.
At first, Tess didn't understand Jack's apology. She figured he was distracted and worried about Ava. But now she realized his not telling her wasn't because it didn't occur to him. It was because he chose not to tell her.
Why didn't you?
He sighed.
I knew you'd tell me I shouldn't talk to her or that I should get her a lawyer first, and I wanted to hear what she had to say before doing anything. I was right. She didn't have anything to do with Amya's death.
For some reason, his explanation bothered her. She pushed back from the counter that divided them.
Tess, don't.
Irritation laced his tone. He stepped around the corner to close the physical distance between them.
I know I was wrong not to tell you. You have a right to be mad.
I'm not mad that you didn't tell me. I'm hurt about why you didn't tell me.
His puzzled expression told her he hadn't expected that.
I don't make legal suggestions to you to show off or to bug you.
I know.
He interrupted.
Your advice would have been right on and important to protect Ava.
And you?
She tossed at him.
You're talking to her after she says she thinks she killed Amya could have made you an accessory.
I hadn't thought about that.
No, because the law and having a practical wife are boring.
Tess.
This time he did reach for her, and she allowed it, although she didn't reciprocate.
I'm sorry.
She could see the truth of his statement in his eyes, but it didn't dissipate the hurt.
Tell me you forgive me. It's hard enough to be away from you when you're not upset.
He brought her hands to his lips and kissed them. She was helpless against that, and he knew it.
Of course I'll forgive you. What choice do I have?
She admitted reluctantly.
Thank goodness for my charm, or I'd be in real trouble.
Your charm only goes so far.
He grinned down on her.
Can I have a kiss for the road?
He didn't wait for a reply as his lips teased and coaxed until she sighed and kissed him back. He widened his stance, which she knew meant he was going to take the kiss deeper, and he planned to be there for a while. That was okay, she decided. Kissing Jack was way better than arguing with him. So she let him take the kiss as far as was possible in a public setting. Even when the chime over the front door rang, and a female voice said,
"Oh my."
Tess let him kiss her. When Jack pulled away, he smiled down on her.
I love you.
Yeah, maybe you could show me sometime.
He laughed.
I'll show you when I get home.
Promises, promises.
He gave her another quick kiss and then headed out the front door.
So, if I wear this stuff, will I get a man like that?
The woman asked. After closing the store with Regina, Tess made her way to the Jefferson Inn to pick up Ava. They'd connected briefly by phone earlier in the day to set a time to meet. Tess was equal parts excited and nervous about having a girls' night with Ava. Part of the thrill was that Ava was a celebrity, and Tess wondered what sort of gossip she might learn. She was also interested in learning more about Jack as a child and teenager. It was information she might have gotten from Jack's grandmother, Cora, except that Cora didn't like Tess. As Tess approached Ava's hotel room door, she heard talking inside. She leaned closer, telling herself she was eavesdropping only to determine if she should wait before interrupting them. But she couldn't hear the conversation, and eager to get home, she decided to interrupt. She knocked on the door.
Mrs. Valentine,
Josh said when he opened the door. He looked surprised to see her.
I'm here to pick up Ava.
it's Jack's wife.
He called over his shoulder.
Tess, let her in, Josh.
Tess had a feeling that Ava hadn't remembered she was coming.
The time got away from me.
Ava said as she grabbed a small bag and began stuffing items into it.
Where are you going?
Josh asked.
I'm going to spend the night with Tess.
Tonight?
Ava gave him a stern look.
You have a problem with that?
Chagrined, as if he remembered his place, he shook his head.
I just didn't realize you were leaving.
It's the only time I have to get to know Tess without Jack around, and I could use a night away from this circus.
What if Mel calls? I'm sure he's going to want to meet with you and Reese.
He'll have to wait until tomorrow. You can text me the time,
Ava said. She disappeared into the bathroom, returning with a cosmetic bag. She stuffed it in her overnight bag, which she zipped and threw the strap over her shoulder.
Ready?
Tess nodded.
If you are. But if tonight isn't good,
Tonight's perfect. It's the only night. You've got my number, Josh. You can call or text, but only if it's important.
Josh nodded, but to Tess's mind, he didn't look happy.
is everything okay?
Tess asked once they were in the car heading home.
Sure. Why?
I got the feeling that I interrupted something.
Josh gets overly worried, which sometimes is good, but often it's just annoying. Amya's death hasn't helped with that. The chances are good that her killer is affiliated with the movie. It makes you look at everyone differently.
Tess nodded, remembering that Ava had told Jack she thought maybe Josh was the killer.
Her death must be a shock.
Not really. I know that sounds awful, but Amya had a way of making enemies of everyone she met. It's not surprising that someone had enough of her antics.
Have the police shared any information?
Tess asked, knowing the answer was probably no, but curious about what Ava might share.
They're full of questions, but aren't much for giving answers.
Will it stop the movie?
Tess asked.
It might delay it, but I doubt it will stop it. As bad as this will sound, her death will probably create more interest in the movie.
That was perverse, Tess thought.
But tonight is about us getting to know each other, so maybe we can chat about something else,
Ava said. It sounded more like an order than a request.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
Why did you walk out on Jack 3 years ago?
What?
Of all the questions Tess thought Ava might bring up, that hadn't been one of them.
Even if you didn't love him, you were friends, and yet you abandoned him when his mom was dying.
I didn't know she was sick.
Tess didn't like the defensiveness in her voice.
You should have.
Ava was right, of course. But she and Jack had already talked about what had happened 3 years earlier when she left her life and everyone in it behind. More importantly, it wasn't Ava's business.
What did Jack tell you?
Tess asked.
I want to hear your side.
Tess wondered if Ava planned to spend the whole night probing Tess's mistakes with Jack. If so, she'd rather take Ava back to the hotel.
I don't think telling you my side will change your ideas around it. All that matters is that Jack understands and we've moved past it.
Ava laughed.
I like your honesty, Tess. You're right. I probably won't like your answer, but that doesn't stop me from being curious.
Tess parked the car in front of the house.
We're home.
Ava got out of the car and studied the house.
It's so Jack, rich, yet down to earth.
That's Jack.
Tess made her way up the front steps and opened the door.
Want some wine? Then I can give you a tour.
Sounds good.
Ava dropped her bag at the foot of the stairs and followed Tess into the kitchen.
Then you can answer my question about why you hurt Jack.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tales from the Heart. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll be back to find out what happens next. Now remember, members of my Sweetheart group can listen to full uncensored episodes through my website. Just visit jennaharte.com and click on Become a Sweetheart for access to uncensored audio episodes, bonus content, and more. If you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get Til Death Do Us Part from your favorite ebook retailer, or you can save by buying direct from me. All the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Don't miss the next episode. Hit the subscribe button so you know when it's posted. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, this is Jenna Harte wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.